So my plea to you is, one, I don't think you can approve this permit because it's inconsistent with the Coastal Act, because it interferes with this private view, and it's inconsistent with the Coastal Act because it'll create a fence that can be seen from the Sonoma County Regional Park, and you don't want to encourage 6-foot fences all up and down the coastline. There are very few 6-foot fences around. I think that the fence will be illegal. I think that the county runs the risk of having an expensive lawsuit to interpret the Coastal Act if a permit is granted, with a risk of attorney's fees if my view prevails, that private views are protected. But most importantly, granting this permit accomplishes no valid purpose that you want to encourage. If this were a fence in front of the Plenty's house, I don't see how anybody could complain unless somebody wanted to just be against fences. This fence is 300 feet from the Plenty's house. Its only purpose is to block the view from the Carter's houses. It incidentally blocks the view across Ocean Avenue of the public to the ocean, including Mrs. Carter's mother's view, who owns a house across Ocean Avenue. But you should not grant this permit, even if you could. And if you deny this permit, this matter stops right here. There's no appeal from the denial of this permit to the Coastal Commission. And while I'm sympathetic with the Plenty's position of they have a good faith dispute between these neighbors, but to implicate the county to try to give them a leg up in this fight with their neighbor over by being able to block off their view, it's just, there's no public purpose being served by a public permit. So my plea is deny this application for this fence and leave these parties to resolve their dispute either by negotiation or by litigation. That's the way disputes like this should be resolved, not by implicating the county on something that involves no public interest whatsoever. Now, Mrs. Carter would like to make a few comments about how this affects her mother and to answer any questions you have, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. I think there are serious legal problems if the fence is granted. There are none if it's denied.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Please, you have about 7.5 minutes remaining of your 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm very embarrassed to be here. I truly am sorry that we're taking your time with a neighborhood problem. This is upsetting. Name? I'm sorry. My name is Judith Carter.
Thank you.
My husband and I have 3 properties along Ocean Drive. My 94-year-old mother has, oops, let me do this, lot number 11. And unfortunately, during this entire fencing argument fiasco, which incidentally has gone on for, we've owned these properties for over 25 years. When we moved in, we actually put in the little 3-foot fence to prevent our grandchildren from wandering out of the yard. And it's not offensive at all. It was defining our space. We had always had a gate out and used the property out on the bluff, and the Plenties were quite aware of this. We are fishermen, and we cleaned our fish out there, had picnics, watched sunsets, etc. The evolution of the problem exacerbating at the point that it is now, as through the years we've said, gee, why don't you sell us the property? Oh gosh, why not? It's of no use to us. During the initial time we first bought the property, there was a moratorium for septic, and I understood the Plenties needed the property for an alternative septic field, so we had no conversations for several years. I must say, moving fast forward, what my son did, an adult son of 45 years old, was wrong. Through the years, I've been very protective of the Plenties. Anything that took place on the bluff, there were a bunch of old pine trees, scrub. I hired people to remove the spur balls